Welcome to the Future Fit Edge podcast, your launchpad into a smart future. In this era of exponential disruption, the choice is crystal clear. Reinvent or be left behind, whether you are at your peak or facing new challenges. I am Cindy Montgenie, your guide, inviting you behind the scenes of strategic reinvention. As a former tech executive turned future of work explorer and reinvention strategist, I have equipped thousands of leaders worldwide to not just navigate ambiguity, but thrive in it. Each power-packed episode decodes the strategies of top executives who are tackling today's toughest challenges to stay future fit and transform their organizations, communities, or industries for a brighter tomorrow. Tune in for stellar insights, practical frameworks, and cutting-edge mindset shifts that will set you apart. The future is unstoppable. Are you ready to be unstoppable too? Hit subscribe and join me on this exciting journey. Welcome, friends, to a new episode of the Future Fit Edge podcast, the podcast where we meet with senior executives to discover their insight, their secrets on how they are leading transformational initiatives within their communities, organizations, or industry. So all of us, we can stay future fit and co-create a future where everyone thrives. Today, our esteemed guest is Mari Carrasquillo. She's a senior marketing executive with more than 25 years of experience in international and domestic markets. She's a people advocate, a brand builder, and a digital advisor with experiences in different industries like tech industry, working on brand strategy for HP or CPG or consumer appliances, and now as the VP of marketing for Costa Farms, the leading company in the plant industry. So welcome, Mari, and thanks a lot for taking the time to chat with us today.
Thank you for having me today, and thank you for the invitation. I'm super humbled to be here today with you, Cindy.
You're welcome. So let's dive into the topic, because one of the keys to stay future fit is to be able to identify future trends so we are not going to stay behind. So I would love to get your insights on what are the emerging technologies that you are most excited about in their potential transformational impact for the plant industry in the next years.
So one of the biggest technologies right now that we are using, actually starting to using, it's of course, AI. Everybody's talking about AI, of course, in different aspects. But for us, specifically in our industry, has been a tremendous tool to help us to create more information that helps our content team, right? To syndicate information to many different channels. So that's number one. The second one, the AI is also helping us with some of the creation of our photographies and videos. And it's interesting, I just came from a Cultivate show, which is one of the most important shows in the horticulture industry. And they were sharing with us the trends for 2025. And one of the trends of the 2025 is about curiosity and imagination, right? So the consumers are looking for those perfect places, right? And sometimes it could sound contradictory, right? Because you don't want to deceive a consumer, right? On how your plants looks versus the reality. But people really, really enjoy to see those beautiful places when they can feel peace and they can relax a little bit. And of course, plants has a lot to do with that. So when I talked about using AI, etc., it's helped us to enhance environments where we place our plants. And at the same time, it's helping us with our budgets, because sometimes you don't have all the time budgets to invest in locations, etc. But it enhanced definitely the way that our plants look and improve the decoration. So that definitely AI is one of the things, and I know that has been around AI for a longer time, but in the horticulture actually is when we are starting to use it more. The other technology that has been around for some other industries has been the augmented reality, right? And that's something that we are actually trying to test for 2025. The same way that you are trying a clothing with you, right, through an app or a website, and without having the product with you or the piece with you, we're trying to do exactly the same with plants. So people can visualize, right? How, if I buy these annual and perennials, beautiful blooming plants, how they're gonna look into my bedding garden. So imagine you going into our site and looking at our site, and suddenly you say, oh, I love this combination of these 3 plants. Let me put it on my backyard. So you take a picture, upload it, and then you start designing your site. So I think that for us, I know that for other people in other industry, they sound, oh, but that we've been doing that for a while. But for horticulture, especially industry, this is something that we're trying now new. And we believe that we can revolutionize a little bit more of how the consumer could buy in the future this particular category through internet.
I love it. I love it. And what I love about what you are sharing is how technology like AI, augmented reality, it's all about like the customer experience.
Correct. Yes.
Because at the end, this is why we exist, right? We exist to fulfill a need in the market. So this leads me to ask you, as a digital advisor, not so much in the future, like, yes, in the future, like trends, but what have you seen already happening in terms of changes in consumer behavior related to e-commerce in the horticulture industry? What are like the changes that you are seeing, and you think that this will keep going on?
Yes, so definitely it's important to understand that this category has been one of the late category entering into the heavy space of e-commerce, right? Like you have a lot of, like fashion, and you have skincare
Tech.
and shoes and books, and all of those started very early in the 2000s. The plants, ironically, it's not the first time that we are shipping plants, which is different, because in the 90s and the 80s, people used to buy plants using a catalog. And this is interesting because I am having conversation with people from Better Home and Garden, etc., that say, we ship plants all of our lives, but we didn't order plants online, which is completely different, like shipping it from the catalog, right? So the experience on the website and making sure that you are definitely offering the right information that the consumer is looking, right? Because sometimes the consumer that you have in online, it's a consumer that are not necessarily too much savvy or knowledgeable in the category. Although we have the hobbyists, what we call it, our plant enthusiast people that they shop everywhere. We have a lot of people that they are actually experiencing now online. They say, hey, if I'm buying this product, let me try a plant. Why not? Right? So for us, it's critical, right? That we offer the best shipping pack option, the best experience for that consumer, so they could be in the future another repeated customer for us. And this is important because when we talk about behaviors, that what we see is that people, when they buy plants online, they're more demanding when they buy plants at the brick and mortar. And I say brick and mortar, the retailer or your traditional garden center. Why? Because they know that the plants in the garden center, they're there for a couple of weeks, etc. So sometimes you can see people say, oh, I'm rescuing a plant. Look at it. It's a little bit, yellow, but I'm going to buy it. I'm going to rescue the plant. In online, it's different. Why? Because they know that if you are selling online, it's because you're bringing that product fresh from the farm to their doorstep or to their house, which is their standard are more higher compared when they buy the product in the garden center. So that is something that is sometimes different when you look into our category versus other categories. Because if I'm going to buy a shoe, I'm going to buy a shoe in, I don't know, in any of the retailers, and I'm going to buy online, my expectation for the shoe is the same, right? In the plant area and space is a little bit different. And for example, there are some categories like blooming category, which you have plants like hibiscus and mandevillas, that usually you buy those plants all full of flowers at your garden center. In online, we need to change the story of those products. So you don't sell the product with flowers, you sell the product with buds, meaning that the flowers are coming, but you don't want to sell the product with the flowers, because if not, the consumer are going to get the smooshy flowers when they get the product. So those differences, right? Like it's like you having the same consumer, but with different expectations. So those are the different nuances that I work with other brands, right? In this area of e-commerce, but I feel that in the horticulture, this is something that differentiated a lot the behaviors of the consumers.
Yeah, and thanks for sharing, because I would have no idea, because I've been working more like in tech and other industry, and this is where we see like the importance again to be customer centric and to really understand your market and how there is difference according to the channel when you are selling. And this leads me, because it is a lot of detail considered to build your marketing strategy. And on top of this, as an executive, Mari, we know that the job is becoming more and more complex, because you have gazillions of priorities competing for your attention. You need, of course, to deliver the quarter, the month, the week, but also you need to identify those trends to build the strategic vision, to execute the vision. So how do you balance the needs, but also transformation and creating a vision, so you and your team, you are staying relevant for the organization?
Yes, and it's very easily to derail from your vision, believe me, especially when you are in the day-to-day. One of the things that we're trying to do is like maintaining, I call it huddles or meeting with the group, just to make sure that we go over our goals for the month and the goal for the year, which is two different, right? And one thing that we've been trying to be very, very efficient, right, with the groups, is to make sure that each of the team members understand where are their roles within our group, right? So I always tell them it's easy for us deviated from the final, right, a vision that we have. So we tend to describe and to have a group that we have our tactic team, and then we have the strategic team, right? So we're trying that the tactic team are the ones that they are more the executioners. They're making sure that everything that we're putting on our strategy in the programs or initiatives, they could follow through and make sure that they finish that product, or they finish that particular initiative, or the launch of a product, etc. And then from there, the strategists, which we have a small group of people that they are the most that working on brainstorming, making sure that, that basically balance us between the day-to-day and the long term. We always continue thinking in the future. So it's very, very important, right, that when you have the group that thinking more in a short term and thinking more in a long term. And it sounds easy because in paper it looks very black and white, but sometimes, when you are in a very crunch time, or in a very season or high season time, you tend to forget about the long term. And it's important for you to recognize when you can pull yourself from the short term and start thinking on the long term, because that's when sometimes you get too much distracted, and then you still stop thinking about how you're going to differentiate your brands in the future, what are the programs that you really want to evolve, right? Because already you're already executed, and then you need to find out how you can keep a stand out outside of the competition. So I think it's a constant a work, right, between you and your team, and making sure that everyone is in sync. So you can even put a lot of trust on those that they're going to execute your vision, but also a lot of trust in those ones that are building their strategy with you, correct? And making sure that that strategy is built in a way that it's attainable, right? Because sometimes you don't even want to put so much like a farther, strategy. So that's for farther strategy is me, right? Working with the executive team, etc. We think about the 5 years, but those strategy between 1 or 2 years, you try to make it more attainable, because usually the team, they like to see when they see results. You know what I mean? That the outcome. When they see the outcome, that's what they refueling them with more energy to keep working on stuff. So I think that that's kind of my rule of thumb when I'm developing my team. And of course, eventually those executors are the ones that you eventually evaluated to keep, growing with your team. So it's an opportunity as well to have a good balance on offering opportunities to keep advancing in their careers within the company as well.
I love it. And what you are sharing is like the importance of the team and the importance of having like the right talent, no matter if it's for the strategic or the execution. And nowadays, because like you have more than 25 years of experience in the business world, and we need to rethink what being a high-performing teams is now in this new work era. So I would love to get your thoughts. What are like the qualities that you are looking for building a high-performing marketing team, and how you are fostering a culture of continuous learning? Because what might be relevant 5 years ago might not be relevant in the next 2 years. So how are you building this team dynamics within your organization?
So our company, we have a motto which is the 3H. So in the 3H, we have the humble, the hustle, and the hungry. Those are the 3H, right? So we try every time that we hire a team member for any of our teams, we try to look, it's difficult sometimes in the interview, but we try to see what of those 3H you can find in your candidates, right? As soon as you have the team, those 3 kind of need to leave. But for me, the most important, the 3 are important, but there is one that is very important, which is the humble. The humble piece is amazing, because if you're humble, and even me, for me and applying, you always can learn from your team, and your team can learn from you, right? Because sometimes when you hire the people, they come with great skills, but not necessarily they are enough knowledgeable in the category. And sometimes you want people like that, right? Because they can bring fresh perspective to your category. But they really need to be humble enough to open and be flexible, to learn the category, to start applying what they already have in their experience. That's one. Second, I think the flexibility is extremely important. This is a category and that was my first time working with a live good, right? It's a category that the pace is very fast. Yeah. And it's like you living all year long in seasonal, right? You have the plan, and you need to make sure that that plan is moving in 8 to 10 weeks. Because if you don't move your plan in that period of time, you're going to start shrinking your inventory and dumping that inventory, right? And dumping from the retailer and dumping from you if you don't move it from your farms. So that's a lot of, like you really need to come up quickly, right, with ideas. So every program or every initiative that we put, we need to be very, very disciplined, have the discipline to execute it on time, making sure that we are bringing all the resources. And sometimes not everyone comes with that fast pace, but on top of that, you need to be flexible. Sometimes in the middle of something happened with your plan and you need to react quickly. You want people that can feel comfortable with those changes and, and at the end of the day, it's not about that the correct or not the correct or a mistake or no, but making sure that they have the agility to think quickly on how to solve situations. So that humbleness, flexibility, and agility, I think that those are key characteristics, right, for that team members. And the last one, and I always say it, and it sounds like a cliche, you really need to have people that likes to work together, right? One of the things that has changed from the past is that you don't work alone. Individual contributors are still existed, and I have a highly respect for them. But in some instances, marketing right now is very highly collaborative. So that means that you really, really need to have a group of people that they need to, to find ways to get along well, to collaborate, to support them, to teach from each other, and to respect, right, different opinions, because I don't want a group that they have same opinions. I always say it. If you don't agree on something, even if I say something and you believe, say it. There's always very respectful ways to say, right, stuff. And you need the communication. So that's my fifth one, communication. So I want people that they can know how to communicate, right? Like they can listening, but then also talk and compenetrate with the group.
Awesome. So humble, flexible, agile,
Agility, collaboration,
and communication.
And communication. Correct.
Good. And some things you mentioned that is true, like you are really in a fast-paced industry because the life of a plant is short. They don't have eternal life. But also in the business world, in general, we are in a fast-paced world.
Oh, yes.
Where everything at this moment is being disruptive, from entry role to senior executives. So let's go back to the trend. And what are the future trends or challenges do you anticipate that will have a deep impact on your role as an executive?
Oh, yes. I think definitely we're moving to an era of technology, 100% of technology, right? Like before, I think that you could pass technology, but I don't think so that whoever thought that it can survive technology, it's wrong, right? I believe that in the future, our positions are going to be a lot of heavy influenced by Martech, especially in marketing, right? Because and you probably 20 years ago you never thought about like, oh, IT with marketing, why, right? But I think that after these past 2 decades that we have so much advances in terms of digital, social, e-commerce, even the communication with consumer marketing, like you have the chat boys, now you have everything is around technology. So I think that one of the biggest challenges that we have as a head of marketing on e-commerce is that we really need to keep ourselves very well versed on all of this, because at the end of the day, this is what it's going to be transforming as well the way that we're working with our teams, right? Everything now is more automation. Everything is, you're doing less manual things. In the future, hopefully you're going to have more all your ecosystem integrated, right? Like with your OMS and your platform and your CRM. So you are going to be kind of the orchestrator, right? And that's the way that I see our future. You're going to be the orchestrator. It's not that I'm going to be, or any executive is going to start typing. It's not that. But if you don't know the benefit that each of these technologies, software provide to your group, even from inside to improving the way of the integrity of the information that you manage for marketing, it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult to lead a group that eventually they're going to be working in all of these technologies. So I think that the evolution of the technology is inevitable at this moment, and we need to maintain ourselves, very well knowledgeable in how are we going to use the technology in a wiser way, right? To optimize the businesses, to grow the businesses, right? Because right now, grow in e-commerce is not about your strategy only on a paper. It's all about on how you are going to maneuver, right? The acquisition of the same consumers, like and it's not about investment either, right? So I think that that's the biggest trend for all of us, and it's not a trend; it's already here. But because technology evolved so fast, I felt that every time that I'm certifying myself in something coming new in 3 months, right? So I think that we are gonna be the doctors of the future. Remember when we say, "Oh, I don't study doctor because they need to study all the time and they have this continued education, etc." I believe that marketing now is like that. It's impossible to manage Amazon if you don't keep yourself with Amazon certification. Same thing with Google, same thing with Meta. It's if you don't have that knowledge, it's impossible for you to find out ways to keep growing your businesses. And unfortunately, we are the leaders and we're going to have great teams having all this knowledge, but we really need also at least to understand the concept to add value into the business.
And this is awesome. So that leads me to ask you the question, how do you do it? Because
Yes.
this is so, as you were mentioning, like if you take a certification today, tomorrow you might need to do another one. So how do you keep in pace with what certification, what system you need to get certified or to learn about? How do you organize yourself to find time to stay relevant as an executive in this fast-paced environment?
Yes. So usually in each of the executive, I'm assuming that they have different, priorities, right, on the table. But one of our priorities for the next probably 5 years, it was CRM, which is we really want to build our customer relationship management system more robust, etc. So I was actually putting a lot of emphasis, right, of myself to learn Hotspot and some other tools, because we used to have another tool, but the tool was not scalable enough for where we want to take, right, our business. So I think it's about the priorities. I'm coming from the priorities. Now this year is all about Amazon. Amazon has been one of our top customers, right, for the past 2 years. And even though that I have a group of Amazon taking certifications of advertising and search and pricing, etc., I was looking to certify myself more on the Amazon connectivity with OMS, right? And all the plugs and APIs that we can have for digital asset management and also for product information management tools. Because one of the things that my team were suffering the most, it was how fast they can upload information into Amazon in a way that is not so much manual. So I spent few times, and few certifications, learning how we can do that. And again, I think everything starts from your priorities. And depending on your priorities, you need to select what type of technology and knowledge do you want to add. So in my case, the CRM and the e-commerce were my top priorities for the past 2 years. So that's where I am actually putting more emphasis. Now, I'm talking to you about AI and augmented reality, which is now it's going to be my next step, right? I have my creative team already working on some of these. I consider myself that I have certain knowledge, but that's something that I am going to start now probably putting more, because content and create more engagement is something that I want to be focused in the next year, because we're going to try to attract new consumers. And for me to understand how to acquire better consumers, etc., utilizing some of my software, I really want to use some of this other technology as well to find out the consumers in other areas outside of what is my first party data. So I need to get now outside. So for me, that's where I'm going to focus the most. But I think that everything starts from your strategy and your prioritization, depending on where do you want to take your department.
Awesome, love it. So the vision, the strategy, the priorities to define your focus. So we're coming almost to an end to our time together, Mari. So I'm just going to do a recap and thanks for sharing your insight on the emerging technologies. So AI, augmented reality, the importance of understanding the difference on the consumer behavior online and at brick and mortar, to understand how to make the most of delivering the day-to-day and also building the long-term vision, your key qualities for high-performing team, and also the impact of your role as an executive and how to be sure that you are staying relevant. And we talk a lot about trends, technology, the consumer, and this is normal because this is what is a new world. But one of the tendencies that we might lose in this tech-driven world is a human touch. Mm-hmm. So to close our time together, I want to move from Mari, the executive, to get to know Mari a bit more, but not like too much. But let's do like a quick fireside chat and tell me, for example, between paper books and ebooks, what is your preference?
I still like the print books. I like, yeah.
Ebooks?
The ebooks, yes.
Okay. To learn between books and podcasts?
With my time limited, podcast is definitely one of the best options.
Awesome. Well, one of the best advice you have ever received?
I have a boss, actually. This was when I was in Whirlpool, in 2003, 2004. She always said that she was my director at that time, and I was I was an associate manager, not even a manager at that time. And she told me, make sure that you always surrounded yourself with people that are smarter than you, right? And I love that, because at that time, I remember when she recruited me, she was actually she had an excellent sales career, but they gave her the marketing piece at that time. And she was actually building the marketing arm for Whirlpool for Latin America. But she said, I don't know anything about marketing. So she was looking a manager and an associate that do it. So the manager that was in that time came from marketing. I came at that time from an advertising agency. So I was in charge of working on medias and websites and everything, right? And she always said, oh my God, I learned so much from you guys. And she said it very casually, I'm not afraid that you guys know about me, more about in this topic, because you need that. If your group is smart, and, because at the end of the day, you as a leader, and we need to understand that we can't do everything, right? So you really need to trust in your team and making sure that your team, you do their job well. At the end of the day, that will speak for your team member and then for the department, the entire department. So I think that was clever, because it's not about like, feeling threat by anyone. It's just about finding how can each of the people bring something to the table.
Yes, I love it.
Embrace that. Mm-hmm.
So true. What is your favorite comfort food?
Oh, I love pizza. Yeah, I like pizza. And French fries.
Pizza.
Those two.
Yeah. And if you could have the opportunity to have lunch or coffee with a famous person who is alive today, who will be this person?
With a famous person alive today. You know what? That's interesting. But probably I will talk with someone like Margaret Thatcher, like that, like understanding,
Yeah, but she's no longer alive.
Okay, no, she's not like that's true. That's my
So
goodness.
you got maybe Angela Merkel, who's the one that was leading Germany for a long time.
Yeah,
Angela?
probably. But
Angela?
if not, I would like to talk to Malala, like
Uh,
the legal girl that she had the situation, right? When she, the violence situation for the country. I think that actually the other day I was checking a book about the biography of her, and I have it over there to see if I can read it on my
because she's
on
no
my
longer a little girl.
vacation.
When this happened, she was like 14, but now
Oh
she's
yeah, she was a
very,
teenager. Now she's
she's a
she
young
is a
woman and
young adult. And
and
what I really like it
she-
is like, I believe that we have a long run for women still in leadership, right? Even though that I feel blessed enough, like I've been having a lot of opportunities from all of the companies that I work. But I think understand how the young woman's brain works right now, and what are the ambition, especially after passing such a traumatic situation.
I agree.
I think I would love to hear from her, right? Because sometimes our problems are very minimal and we tend to drown in a very simple thing, and understand how she found that balance, right, to continue, and the resilience to continue with her life, and speak about her story and turn it down into something positive for her, right? It's very commendable.
Yeah, she's also part of my list of people I would love to meet.
Yeah.
And you are already like super powerful, Mari, but if you could have a superpower, what power would it be?
Teleporter. I would like to move to places quickly.
Awesome. Good. And the last one, because there is a lot of things to do, what would you do with 1 additional hour in a day?
I will definitely do probably more workout. I wish I can do, something that I feel good about it, like more, I don't know, running or doing my Pilates. Yes, definitely.
Awesome. So thank you very much, Mari, for the opportunity to know you as an executive and also to know you more on a personal level. Thanks a lot for your time, again, to share your insight on how you are leading transformation in your current organization, which is a leader in the horticulture sector. And also, thanks to our friends for listening. I hope you enjoy this conversation. Please remember to like, to subscribe, and to share. And also remember that the future is unstoppable. So can you and your organization be? So let's together unleash the power of possibility today so we can co-create a future where everyone thrives. And see you soon for the next episode of the Future Fit Edge podcast. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Future Fit Edge podcast. To keep the conversation going, follow me on LinkedIn and subscribe to my newsletter. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe, rate, and share on your favorite podcast platform. See you next time.